Welcome to episode 54 of Shane Talks 99. It is December 10th, 1999, and there's a lot to talk about this weekend. We have four movies to go over, and it's kind of just all over the place, like all kinds of genres, all kinds of stuff going on. And I am trying to convince myself that I'm going to make this a short episode. I don't really need to go into crazy detail about any of them, but we'll see how fast I can churn through all this. Because, like I said, there's four movies, four different genres all over the place. Let's start with the Cider House Rules. This was our art house film offering that we had this weekend, and like sadly, when it's an art house movie in the late '90s, there's really just one thing that means, and that means that this movie is associated with the devil himself. Because this was a Miramax film, and like I know this film played at Castleton Arts. It was crazy busy for him, if I remember right. And like this film is just packed with so much mental and emotional shit. Like there's a lot of stuff going on. There's mental illness, there's adoption, there's abortion, there's affairs, there's incest, there's a murder, suicide. Yeah, I guess we could call it that. Yeah, there's like faking medical records. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in this movie, and like it's all over the place with like all the shit that it decides to deal with and like put on one character. And like just trust me, like this is a super deep film, and like it's a good film. I remember liking it. I wish I found the time to rewatch it because like I said, I remember liking it. I just don't remember like why I liked it. So I wish I had found the time to like rewatch it again. Because it's possible that there may have been like too much hype around this movie. Because like I said, I thought it was okay, but I know a lot of people that like loved this movie, and just maybe I missed that part. So I wish I would have had time to rewatch it so that I could have made up my mind. Like, was it the hype back then that made me fall a little short of everybody else, or like, am I just kind of like, yeah, it's a good movie? Maybe the content and context of it at that point in my life I didn't relate to well enough. So it's one that someday I'd be interested in giving another shot to. Because like I said, I remember liking it. I just want to know why I didn't like it as much as most people did. Because like this movie's got an amazing cast. We have Tobey Maguire, like he plays this dude named Homer, who his journey throughout this movie and all the stuff that he sees and gets involved with and has to deal with and has to help out with, like Tobey Maguire just plays it all really well. And Michael Caine, kind of his mentor in the movie, super top notch as well. Kind of a questionable character, but like overall, still like Michael Caine just brings it in this movie. And the two of them together have some really great chemistry. We've also got Charlize Theron and Paul Rudd in this movie. Both are, typical, like great at their roles. Paul Rudd isn't that huge, but like, he's around enough that, he leaves his lasting impression on the movie. I love Delroy Lindo, and this might be the only movie that I know of that I've seen Erica Badu in. Obviously an amazing musician, but like, she's got a decent part in this movie as well. Some smaller parts. We got Kieran Culkin and J.K. Simmons. They both, show up in this movie. So like top-notch, amazing cast. Cider House Rules is definitely one of those art house films that's worth your time. If you haven't seen it, like again, it's not something where in the last 25 years I've said I need to rewatch this movie. Because like I said, it deals with a lot of like heavy emotional shit in it. And so like it is what it is. If you wanted a comedy this weekend, you probably watched a different movie than I did because like the comedy offering that was offered this weekend is a movie called Deuce Bigelow Male Gigolo. I did not like this movie at all. It's just not my kind of humor, which is like awkward and it sucks because like the movie stars Rob Schneider and like I fully try to support all SNL cast members, like especially SNL cast members in the 90s, like late 90s, early 2000s, they were putting out SNL movies that I really enjoy, like A Night at the Roxbury or Superstar that we talked about earlier this year. And like moreover, like I'm a huge Adam Sandler fan, like a super Adam Sandler fan. This movie, Deuce Bigelow, was the first movie that Happy Madison Productions produced. Like, I want to like this movie. I want to support this movie. And I hated it. Like, legit hated this movie. Like, legit can't tell you anything in this movie that I liked. I'm sad about that. Like, and it was a box office success. It had a $17 million budget and it ended up bringing in $92 million. I don't understand it. Obviously, people enjoyed this movie way more than I did because that's not a $92 million movie, in my opinion. But whatever, just because it's not for me doesn't mean that it sucks. Weirdly, I don't remember who I watched this movie with, and I also don't remember what theater I watched it in, which is super odd because I've just got this awkward memory, especially with like employee screenings for movies, telling people what theater I was in when I watched it. We had 12 theaters, and almost every one of them, like when I think about things like, The Matrix I watched in theater 10, or The Out of Towners, the only movie I walked out of was playing in theater 6. Um, I mean, even going back to like when I first saw Scream at this same movie theater in 1997, I'm sorry, 1996, when I was only, 16 years old and I couldn't buy an R-rated ticket, so I had to sneak into Scream the first time I watched it on opening weekend. I snuck into theater 7 to watch that movie. Like, as far as Clearwater goes, like I've just got this memory of the theaters that I watched movies in. And I cannot remember where I watched this movie. I don't even know if I watched it with anybody. Because, like, if I had watched it with Dave Mayer or if Jason had been there at this screening, like, I feel like their infectious laugh would have been something that, like, probably would have liked the movie a lot more. Like that's the weird thing about comedies is like I've seen comedies that I have not enjoyed and then rewatched it later with other people and them laughing and enjoying something just kind of changes my experience with a movie. And like the same thing goes if I watch a bad movie. Like if Jason Mayer and I watch like a bad movie together, but we're laughing at how bad it is, like I'm at least enjoying and having a good time and enjoying that part of the movie. But like I literally cannot remember who or where I watched this movie with, and it's possible I watched it by myself because I just absolutely did not enjoy this movie at all whatsoever. So it's possible I watched it by myself because, like, Rob Schneider and Eddie Griffin star in this movie. Both, guys that I really enjoy their comedy. William Forsythe plays a detective in the movie. Oded Fair, who was just Ardeth in The Mummy earlier in 1999, is in this movie. Sadly for him, go from The Mummy to this movie in the same year. Amy Poehler is in this movie. I don't even know if she had to have been on the SNL cast by this point. I know she was around in the 2000s. Maybe she had already gotten a job with SNL around 99. Norm Macdonald, who famously was on SNL in the 90s doing Weekend Update, is in this movie. Like, and then there's the Happy Madison constant, Alan Covert, who would later star in Grandma's Boy. He's in this movie. Like, it has a cast of people that I enjoy, that I like. I just don't know why I don't like this movie. I know a lot of my friends who like this movie. I'm just not into it. Our third film is a movie called Ride with the Devil. And to be 100% honest with you, when I saw what movies I was talking about this week, my brain immediately went to a movie. I got this confused with a movie called American Outlaws, which didn't even come out until 2001. But I think I understand why I got these confused. Like American Outlaws is a Western that has Colin Farrell, Scott Conn, and Ali Larter in it. And it's like about Jesse James and his gang, which is the movie that I thought I was going to be talking about right now, but it's not. Ride with the Devil is not that movie. Ride with the Devil is another Tobey Maguire film. Yeah, that's right. Tobey Maguire, on the same weekend in 1999, released both a mainstream film and an indie film. I honestly don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's happened before. There's no way this is the only time it's ever happened, but like off the top of my head, I can't think of any other actor that's done that. Again, I know I'm sure this has happened before, but I think it's kind of cool thing for Toby that like great movie like Cider House Rules, and then Ride with the Devil, which it was so memorable to me that I confused it with a movie that came out 2 years later. And like this movie has the dreamy character played by Skeet Ulrich in it. Yeah, that's right, Billy Loomis himself from Scream, who was just in Chill Factor the summer of 1999. He is in this film as well. Um, the female lead in this movie is, I think, where I get my timelines thrown off because the female lead in Ride with the Devil is Jewel, the musician Jewel. And I did not ever put together until I was researching the movie the fact that Jewel's Christmas album, her holiday album, came out a month earlier, the beginning of November in 1999. I just don't think mentally I remember that being a 1999 album. And so, like, I think that's why I got this confused with like the 2001 movie. Like I thought this movie came out far later and the other one was earlier. I don't know. I guess it all makes sense, but like I just wasn't processing it like that. So like this movie, it's another Western about some country boys who join a Confederate group, end up fighting against some Union soldiers. They're all kind of just like they're not really part of the Confederacy or the Union. They're just kind of like sub groups that support them that just kind of go like into guerrilla warfare against each other. It's kind of like gang wars, essentially, like sidekicks of the Confederacy and the Union who just kind of try to fuck with each other a lot. Like, I don't know. I obviously don't remember a whole lot about it for the simple fact that I got it confused with the movie that was another Western that came out 2 years later. So that's real. Like I don't really remember much about plot of this movie. The last movie we have to talk about though, definitely one that I remember, definitely one that sticks with me. We have Tom Hanks in a Stephen King film directed by Frank Darabont, and that is a movie called The Green Mile. Frank Darabont, amazing writer, written a lot of really good stuff, very selective about the things that he's directed. And most notably, probably his best film he's ever directed was another Stephen King adaptation, The Shawshank Redemption, a couple of like it would have been like 5 years early, I believe it was 94. Then, almost 10 years after this movie, Frank Darabont directed another Stephen King adaptation called The Mist, which I know a lot of people hate The Mist. I don't necessarily hate The Mist. I think the ending is pretty Stephen King-ish, so I don't really know what, like, I mean, it's got a dark and twisted ending, and I know everybody's like, I wouldn't do that. But, like, I don't know that that's maybe they didn't build up that character well enough for the audience at the end of The Mist, but, like, I don't hate The Mist. I don't think it's great. Like I don't think it's the best Stephen King adaptation. Obviously Shawshank is amazing, but like just the fact that Frank adapted three different Stephen King novels into movies, I think is pretty cool. Um Tom Hanks obviously had a huge 1999 because he had this movie, which was amazing. And then last month he was in Toy Story 2. So great year for Tom Hanks, in my personal opinion. And like I can't even do this cast justice, like going over all the stuff they've done. So just to be quick, I'm gonna throw out some names for you. You should know almost all of them. David Morse is in this movie. Bonnie Hunt is in this movie. Michael Clark Duncan is the like main focus of the movie. James Cromwell is in this movie. Michael Jeter is in this movie, which you might not recognize the name Michael Jeter, but like as soon as you saw Michael Jeter, you'd be like, oh, I know who that actor is. He's got one of those faces. Somebody else who has one of those faces, Sam Rockwell. Amazing, amazing performance by Sam Rockwell for like the most hated character in this movie. Like his character is a piece of shit. But like Sam Rockwell just plays it really well and deserves what ends up happening to him. Barry Pepper is in this movie. Harry Dean Stanton is in this movie. And then the absolutely gorgeous Patricia Clarkson is in this film as well. It's just what an amazing cast. It's a long movie. It runs like a little over 3 hours. Um, it does have some slow parts and feels slow at times. I remember, you know, when I would rewatch it, there were times where I'd be like, oh, I can get up and run and do something real quick because I know the next few minutes are going to be pretty boring. But like overall, the Green Mile, for what it is not boring at any point. It's just when you do know the movie, it doesn't require you to sit through everything. But like all of the character development and the things that go on in those 3 hours are really well done. And it's a beautifully shot movie. The cinematography in this film is great. The lighting is really awesome at times. Like there's the visually, like this is an absolute masterpiece to watch this film. And so like it was literally one of the best movies of 1999. Like, um, just the concept of this character, John Coffey, played by Michael Clark Duncan, like just what they like he the supernatural element to it and just what he is able to do, mostly with his healing powers. If you haven't seen the movie, I apologize. He has healing powers and some other powers that I don't really want to talk about, but like what he does to other characters throughout the film is kind of interesting, and then it's got like a lot of moral dilemmas and a lot of you know living our lives in certain ways type stuff, like the ability to live longer than a normal human being is it's not necessarily like the immortality clause, like the what do I do when I outlive the people that I love, but like That's kind of something that Tom Hanks's character goes through, in the end of this film. So like there's a lot of like moral dilemmas and things like that that are associated with those supernatural powers that seem to be used for good and I think are used for good. But like just I mean, if you don't cry in like the last third of this movie and like the stuff that's going on, like I mean, there's some pretty heavy, deep emotional stuff that this script takes you on. It's a well done movie and very enjoyable to just watch this journey of all these characters and the stuff that they go through and just emotionally and mentally it is very well done and worth your time. Like I said, it was one of the best films of 1999. Sadly, just 1999 is overwhelmingly full of amazing films. And so, like, even though Green Mile got nominated for a bunch of awards in different like the Oscars and the Emmys and stuff like that, like or not the Emmys, the Golden Globes, sorry. Even though, it got nominated for a bunch of stuff, it barely won anything, which is sad. I mean, they at least got some recognition that they were nominated, but they didn't win a whole lot. So it's still an absolutely amazing film. It is still worth your time if you have not seen it. That is the four films we have to talk about this week. Next week we get to talk about a robot and a mouse. So that'll be fun.